He thought he had it all, until he discovered a hidden message on his ex-wife's phone, and in that instant his life turned upside down. If you enjoy stories like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We post daily. Continuing, the duplex apartment in Santa Monica, California, had a beach view and was worth over $3 million. Raphael Miller had bought the property 5 years earlier, when it was still just a developer's promise. Today, at 42, he owned one of the most impressive real estate portfolios in Los Angeles, California. 17 commercial buildings, 23 residential developments, and a land portfolio that stretched from Westwood to Santa Monica. All built from scratch, brick by brick, contract by contract. In the spacious living room with a double-height ceiling, abstract paintings dominated the white walls, violent strokes of red and blue, shapes that seemed to scream silently. They were works by Marina Albright Miller, his wife. A visual artist recognized in Los Angeles cultural circles, she had exhibited in important galleries in San Francisco, participated in biennials, and sold canvases to private collectors. But in the last 2 years, her paintings had become increasingly somber. Raphael adjusted his Italian tie in front of the mirror in the entrance hall. It was 6:30 on a Tuesday morning in May. Another day of meetings, inspections, negotiations. His cell phone was already vibrating incessantly in his suit pocket. Messages from partners, architects, lawyers. The business world didn't sleep, and he liked it that way. The constant movement kept him focused, productive, in control. Marina was still asleep, or pretending to be asleep. Raphael could no longer distinguish. In recent months she had retreated earlier and earlier, always claiming tiredness or a headache. In the morning, when he left for work, she barely lifted, her eyes from the pillow to say goodbye. When he returned at night, she was in the makeshift studio on the suite's balcony, painting under artificial light, with huge headphones isolating her from the world. They didn't fight. They didn't argue. They simply existed in parallel, like two planets orbiting the same sun but never meeting. Raphael attributed the distance to her work stress. Marina was preparing an important solo exhibition for the end of the year. It was natural that she would be more introspective, more dedicated to her art. At least that's what he told himself when loneliness tightened its grip during the early hours. Their marriage had always been admired by friends. Raphael, the successful and determined businessman. Marina, the talented and elegant artist. They formed an interesting, complementary couple, he with the practicality of business, she with the sensibility of art. At parties they were photographed together, smiling, impeccable. Society columnists called them the power couple of the Los Angeles West Side. But behind the rehearsed smiles and designer dresses, there was a silence that grew like a weed. Conversations limited to practical matters, bills to pay, social engagements, apartment renovations, intimacy reduced to quick good morning and good night kisses. Sex that had become rare, mechanical, almost a conjugal duty performed in haste. Raphael knew something was wrong, but he didn't know how to fix it. His specialty was solving objective problems, land with irregular documentation, defaulting contractors, bureaucratic city councils. For every business obstacle he had a strategy, an action plan, a timeline. But the human heart didn't work like an Excel spreadsheet. It didn't respond to goals and indicators. That morning he went down to the open-plan kitchen, integrated into the living room. He wanted to prepare strong coffee before facing the Santa Monica traffic to downtown Los Angeles, where his office was located. Marina always left her cell phone charging on the granite counter while she slept. It was an old habit of hers. A cell phone in the bedroom disturbs sleep, she used to say. Raphael was fiddling with the espresso machine when Marina's cell phone lit up with a notification. The screen briefly illuminated, displaying a message. He looked unintentionally, by reflex. Then he looked again, this time carefully. The message read, "You are stronger than you think. The light is still within you, I'm sure of it." The signature was just the letter L. The time showed 11:47 p.m. the previous night. Raphael felt something strange in his chest, a pang of curiosity mixed with discomfort. Who was L? Why were they sending such intimate messages to Marina almost at midnight? And why had she never mentioned this person? He tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was just an artist friend, someone from the cultural scene. Artists were prone to that kind of emotional, poetic language. It meant nothing. But the pang in his chest persisted as he drank his coffee and arranged documents in his executive brief. In the elevator, descending the 22 floors to the garage, Raphael couldn't stop thinking about the message. "You are stronger than you think." What did it mean? Was Marina going through some difficulty he didn't know about? Why didn't she talk to him about it? And why was she talking to a stranger identified only as L? Traffic was particularly slow that day. As he drove his BMW on the freeways, Raphael found himself creating theories about the mysterious message. Perhaps Marina was facing a creative block. Perhaps she was insecure about the exhibition. Perhaps L was a curator, an art critic, someone guiding her professionally. But the language of the message didn't seem professional. It seemed intimate, personal. The light is still within you. Who spoke like that to a married person? And why didn't Marina mention this person at home? All morning, Raphael tried to focus on work. He had an important meeting with Japanese investors interested in financing a commercial complex in Burbank. It was a deal he had been orchestrating for months. It could yield tens of millions in commissions. He should be focused, prepared, sharp. But the image of Marina's phone screen wouldn't leave his head. The words seemed burned into his memory. "You are stronger than you think. The light is still within you." Who was L? In the afternoon, during a break between meetings, Raphael locked himself in his office and did something he had never done before. He took out his own cell phone and was tempted to call Marina. He wanted to ask her directly about the message, but something stopped him. Would it be a violation of privacy? Would it be paranoia on his part? Would it be unjustified jealousy? He decided to wait, to observe. Perhaps the answer would come naturally, without the need for confrontation. He arrived home at 9 in the evening. Marina was in the studio, as always. He greeted her through the glass door of the balcony. She waved back, but didn't take off her headphones. She didn't pause her painting to talk to him. It was as if he were part of the furniture, something that didn't deserve immediate attention. Raphael dined alone, watching the evening news. Then he went to his home office, where he spent 2 hours reviewing contracts. When he went up to the bedroom, Marina was already in bed, apparently asleep. Her cell phone was charging in the usual spot. He showered, brushed his teeth, and lay down beside her. Marina didn't move. She breathed regularly, deeply. Was she really asleep, or still pretending? Raphael lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand when exactly they had stopped talking. He remembered the beginning of their relationship, 7 years earlier. They met at a vernissage in Beverly Hills. Raphael had gone to the event accompanying a client who collected art. He knew nothing about painting but feigned interest to keep the business. Marina was next to one of her canvases, explaining the concept to a group of people. She wore a simple black dress and gestured with passion as she spoke about colors, shapes, emotions. Raphael was mesmerized, not by the painting, but by her intensity, by the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about art, by the genuine passion that shone through every word. She was different from the women he knew in the business world. She wasn't interested in status or money. She was interested in beauty, truth, expression. They talked all night. Raphael confessed he knew nothing about art. Marina laughed and said that was great because she knew nothing about business. They went for a drink at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel bar. He talked about his dreams of building a real estate empire. She talked about her desire to exhibit at the MoCA. 6 months later, they were living together. A year later, they married in a discreet ceremony in Laguna Beach with only close family and intimate friends. The first few years were intense, passionate. Raphael worked 12 hours a day, but always made time for Marina. They went to exhibitions, plays, romantic dinners. They traveled abroad twice a year. Marina supported him through difficult business times. When a venture was delayed or a client backed out at the last minute, she was there to listen to his frustrations, to offer a different perspective, to remind him that he was capable of overcoming any obstacle. Raphael felt complete beside her. He felt he had found not just a wife, but a life partner. When exactly had that changed? When had they stopped talking about dreams and started talking only about bills and commitments? When had sex become an obligation? When had Marina started isolating herself in the studio? Raphael tried to identify a specific moment, an event that marked the beginning of the estrangement. Perhaps when he bought the Carson Brothers construction company and started working even more. Perhaps when Marina didn't get the exhibition at MoCA and was depressed for months. Perhaps when they tried to have children for 2 years without success, until they gave up on fertility treatments. Or perhaps there was no specific moment. Perhaps the distancing had happened gradually, like a slow and imperceptible erosion. Small neglects that accumulated over time. Postponed conversations that never happened. Gestures of affection that were forgotten in the rush of daily life. The next morning, Raphael woke up earlier than usual. Marina was still sleeping soundly. He went down to the kitchen and, almost without thinking, looked at her phone. There were no new notifications, at least not visible on the lock screen. During breakfast, Raphael tried to start a conversation. "How's the exhibition preparation going?" "Fine," Marina replied, without lifting her eyes from the tablet where she was reading art news. "Do you need anything? Any special materials? I can have my assistant arrange it." "No need, I already have everything." "And when will the opening be?" "In December. I haven't set the exact date yet." Her answers were monosyllabic, automatic. Marina seemed physically present but mentally absent. Raphael persisted. "You look tired. Are you sleeping well?" Finally, she looked up. "I'm fine, Raphael. Just focused on work." "You know you can talk to me, right? If you have any worries, any problems." Marina studied him for a few seconds. There was something in her gaze that Raphael couldn't interpret. Sadness? Resignation? Longing? "I know," she said. "Thank you." But the tone suggested otherwise. It suggested that she didn't know, or that she knew but didn't believe it. Raphael left for work with the feeling that something important had gone unnoticed in the conversation, a lost opportunity, a door that had opened slightly, but he didn't know how to walk through. Over the next few days, he started paying more attention to Marina's habits. She woke up around 10 in the morning, ate breakfast alone, and spent the afternoon painting. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she left in the late afternoon and returned only in the early evening. She said she was going to galleries, friends' studios, meetings with curators. Raphael had never questioned these outings. Marina had always been independent, always had her own professional agenda. But now, with the mysterious message from Elle etched in his memory, he began to wonder where exactly she went on those Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. The following Thursday, Raphael cancelled a meeting and decided to return home early. He arrived at the building at 4 in the afternoon. Marina wasn't there. The doorman confirmed that she had left about an hour ago. Raphael went up to the apartment and, for the first time in 7 years of marriage, felt like a stranger in his own home. He walked through the rooms like a detective looking for clues. In Marina's studio, he observed her recent canvases, all very dark, disfigured human figures, faces without eyes, bodies that seemed to dissolve into the paint. It was as if she were painting her own decaying soul. On a side table, he found some business cards, gallerists, art critics, other artists, none with the initial L. There were also handwritten notes on painting techniques, ideas for future works, material budgets. Nothing that seemed personal or intimate. Raphael felt guilty for rummaging through Marina's things, but the guilt was replaced by a growing unease when he realized he no longer knew his wife's life. He didn't know who she talked to, where she spent her afternoons, what she thought about their marriage. Marina returned at 6:30. She entered the apartment with a serene, almost smiling expression. She seemed refreshed, as if the hours away from home had done her good. "Hi," she greeted Raphael, who was in the living room pretending to read emails on his laptop. "Hi. How was the gallery?" "Good. I saw an interesting contemporary art exhibition." "Which gallery?" Marina hesitated for a fraction of a second. "The Artists and Gallery, in Beverly Hills." Raphael knew the gallery. He had been there a few times with Marina. He knew they usually announced exhibitions in the press and on social media. That night, after Marina went to the studio, He looked for information about current exhibitions at the Artists and Gallery. There was nothing new. The last exhibition had ended the previous week. The lie was like a punch to the gut. Marina had lied to him. About where she was, about what she had done, why. What did she have to hide? That night, Raphael could barely sleep. He lay listening to Marina's breathing, beside him, trying to decipher if she was really asleep or if she was also pretending. Questions multiplied in his head like a virus. Who was Elle? Where did Marina go on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons? Why did she lie about her activities? For the first time in 7 years of marriage, Raphael began to suspect that his wife might be having an affair. The paranoia grew like an infection. Raphael began to mentally document all of Marina's movements, analyzing every word, every gesture, every facial expression. He became an amateur detective of his own marriage, looking for evidence of a betrayal he wasn't yet sure existed. The following Tuesday, he cancelled another meeting. This time he decided to follow Marina. He felt ridiculous doing it, but the need to know the truth was stronger than the shame. At 3:30 in the afternoon, he positioned his car on a street parallel to their apartment building. From there, he could see the garage exit without being seen. Marina drove out in her white Audi at 4:15. Raphael waited a few minutes before following her, keeping a safe distance. She drove down Santa Monica towards downtown Los Angeles. Raphael knew that route well. It was the same one he took every day to go to work, but Marina rarely had appointments in the central area. Traffic was heavy, as always. Raphael could keep Marina in sight without difficulty. She drove calmly, unhurriedly, like someone going to a known and expected appointment. She didn't seem to be cautious or trying to throw someone off her trail. This momentarily reassured him, but also heightened his curiosity. Marina parked on a side street in Beverly Hills near the subway. Raphael stopped 2 blocks back and watched her get out of the car. She wore a navy blue dress, flat shoes, a small crossbody bag. Nothing too elaborate, but she looked beautiful. She had always been beautiful, Raphael realized. Maybe he had stopped noticing. She walked for about 5 minutes until she stopped in front of a discreet corner building. There was no commercial sign, storefront, or any visible identification. It was an old residential building, with a blue tile facade and a wide entrance. Marina checked something on her cell phone before entering. Raphael waited 15 minutes across the street, feeling like a stalker. Then he approached the building. In the entrance hall, there was a small brass plaque with several names and room numbers. Most seemed to be professionals, lawyers, dentists, accountants. One name caught his attention: Dr. Leonard Sterling, clinical psychologist, room 304. Leonard. L. The relief was immediate and devastating at the same time. Marina wasn't having an affair, she was in therapy. But why had she hidden it from him? Why did she lie about where she went? And why did she need psychological help? Raphael returned to his car confused and disturbed. On one hand, he felt relieved that there was no betrayal. On the other, he was shocked to discover that his wife had been in psychological treatment for weeks, perhaps months, without him knowing. What was happening to Marina? Why did she feel compelled to lie about something as natural as seeking professional help? He waited in the car for almost 2 hours. When Marina finally left the building, it was almost 7 in the evening. She wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, tall, about 50, grey hair, discreet framed glasses. He wore jeans and a dress shirt without a tie. He had the calm, intellectual air of someone used to listening to people. Raphael watched them from a distance. They stopped at the corner and talked for a few minutes. Marina gestured as she spoke. She seemed animated. The man listened attentively, occasionally making a comment. It was a natural conversation, with no signs of physical intimacy, but there was an emotional closeness that Raphael could perceive even from afar. After a few minutes, the man hugged Marina. A long, affectionate hug, but not romantic. It was the hug of someone who cared, who offered support. Marina pulled away smiling, a smile Raphael hadn't seen in months. They said goodbye and went in opposite directions. Marina returned to her car. Raphael waited for her to leave before following her back home. During dinner, Marina was different, more present, more communicative. She asked about Raphael's work, commented on a movie she wanted to see at the cinema, suggested they go out for dinner on the weekend. It was the first time in months that she showed genuine interest in joint activities. Raphael tried to use the moment to probe. "You seem more cheerful today." "Yeah, it was a good day." "What did you do?" Marina hesitated. "I went to the gallery, as usual. Then I had coffee with a friend." Another lie. Raphael felt a pang of frustration. Why did she keep making up stories? If there was nothing wrong with going to therapy, why couldn't she be honest? "What friend?" "You don't know her. She's from the art world." Raphael didn't press, but the lie echoed in his head all night. Marina was in therapy, that was clear, but she also compulsively lied about it. There was something bigger behind it all. In the following days, Raphael found himself researching couples therapy online. Perhaps that was the problem. Perhaps Marina was doing individual therapy precisely because they could no longer communicate. Perhaps it was her way of dealing with the relationship crisis. The idea that their marriage was in crisis wasn't new to Raphael, but he had always assumed it was a temporary phase. Work stress, professional pressure, lack of time for each other, problems that would resolve themselves naturally when life calmed down. But apparently, Marina wasn't waiting for life to calm down. She was taking active steps to deal with the situation, and she wasn't including him in the process. The following Thursday, Raphael had an idea. Instead of following Marina again, he decided to wait for her at the therapy exit. He wanted to confront her. He wanted to understand what was happening, but he wanted to do it respectfully, without giving the impression that he was spying. He arrived at the building in Beverly Hills at 6:30 in the evening and waited across the street. When Marina came out at exactly 7 o'clock, Raphael crossed the street and went to meet her. "Marina!" She turned, startled. When she saw Raphael, her face paled. "Raphael, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk to you." How did you know I was here?" Marina's voice was trembling. It wasn't anger, it was panic, as if she had been caught red-handed committing a crime. "Marina, calm down. I'm not here to fight." "Did you follow me?" "I just wanted to understand." "Did you follow me, Raphael? Seriously?" People passed on the sidewalk, looking at them with curiosity. Marina was visibly shaken. Raphael was feeling like a stalker. The situation was completely spiraling out of control. "Let's talk at home," Raphael suggested. "No," Marina said, regaining her composure. "Let's talk right here. Now." She pulled him into a nearby coffee shop. She chose a table in the back, away from other people. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the menu. "Raphael, what do you want from me?" The question sounded like an accusation. Raphael felt defensive. "I just want to understand why you're lying to me. Why you invent these stories about galleries when you're actually here." Marina stared at him for long seconds. There was pain in her eyes, but also a determination Raphael didn't recognize. "Because I knew you'd react exactly like this," she said, with interrogation, with suspicion, as if I were doing something wrong. "That's not it, Marina. It's just that I don't understand why you need to hide that you're in therapy. There's nothing wrong with that." "Nothing wrong?" she repeated, with a bitter smile. "Then why are you here confronting me like I'm a criminal?" Raphael realized he had fallen into a trap of his own logic. If there really was no problem with Marina being in therapy, why was he feeling betrayed? Why had he investigated, followed, confronted? "I was worried," he said, trying to explain. "You've been distant, different. I didn't know what was happening. And at no point did it cross your mind to ask me directly." The question hit Raphael like a slap. It was true. He had never directly asked if she was okay, if she needed help, if there was anything he could do. He preferred to spy rather than talk. "Marina, I'm sorry, you're right. I should have asked." She sighed and took a sip of the coffee she had automatically ordered. "Raphael, how long has it been since we really talked?" The question caught Raphael off guard. "What do you mean? How long has it been since we talked about how we're feeling, about what we want from life, about our relationship?" Raphael tried to remember a truly intimate conversation they had had recently. He couldn't. I don't know. I don't know either, Marina said, and that scared me. That's why I started therapy. Why didn't you talk to me about it? Because I tried, Raphael, several times. But you were always busy or tired or worried about some business. And when I insisted, you reassured me by saying it was just a phase, that things would get better on their own. Raphael vaguely remembered some of Marina's attempts to initiate deeper conversations, but they always seemed ill-timed, when he was stressed with a project or worried about deadlines or simply too tired for emotional discussions. I didn't realize it was so important to you. It was. It is. Our marriage is important to me, Raphael, or at least it was. The use of the past tense sounded like a death sentence. It was? Marina looked out the coffee shop window before answering. I was thinking of asking for a divorce. The words hit Raphael like a gunshot. Divorce. She had thought of divorce and he didn't even know. There was a serious problem. Marina. But before making a definitive decision, I decided to seek professional help, to understand if there was still anything to save. Raphael felt the world spinning. For weeks, while he worried about betrayal, Marina was deciding if she wanted to stay married to him. And is there? He asked, his voice hoarse. I don't know, she replied with brutal honesty. I'm still finding out. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Raphael processed the information. Marina was in therapy not for depression or anxiety, but because of their marriage. She was trying to decide if it was worth fighting for the relationship or if it was better to give up. What do I need to do? Raphael finally asked. First, you need to stop following me and lying. I didn't lie. Raphael, you cancelled meetings to spy on me. That's not normal husband behavior, that's stalker behavior. She was right. Raphael felt ashamed of his own behavior. Second, Marina continued, you need to decide if you really want to save our marriage or if you just want to keep up appearances. Of course I want to save it. Then you'll have to open yourself up to changes. Real, deep. What do you mean? Marina studied his face before answering. Raphael, when was the last time you asked me how I was? I always ask. No. How I really was. Not if I needed something or if the exhibition was going well or if I was sleeping properly. When did you ask how I was inside? Raphael was silent. He couldn't remember. When was the last time you shared with me something that was really worrying you? Not work, not money. Something personal. More silence. When was the last time we made love? Not sex. Love, and you paid attention to me, to my pleasure, to my satisfaction. Marina's questions were like precise stabs at vulnerable points Raphael didn't even know existed. I thought I was being a good husband, he murmured. You're a great provider, Marina said. An excellent companion for social events. An efficient partner for dividing bills and household responsibilities. But a long time ago, you stopped being my lover, my confidant, my best friend. Raphael felt tears burning his eyes. He hadn't cried in years. I don't want to lose you, he said. Then you'll have to win me back, Marina replied. From scratch, as if we were just meeting now. How? To start, will you agree to couples therapy? The question took Raphael by surprise. Therapy always seemed like something for people with serious problems, unbalanced. He saw himself as rational, solving issues through dialogue and logic. But obviously his logic had failed miserably with Marina. If you think it will help, it's not what I think, Raphael. It's what you think. You need to truly want this, otherwise it won't work. Raphael thought about the alternative: divorce, division of assets, an empty apartment, definitive loneliness. Life without Marina. I want to, he said. I want to try. Marina smiled for the first time since he had found her. Then I'll talk to Dr. Leonard. He also sees couples. Leonard is my psychologist, Dr. Leonard Sterling. He's been helping me a lot. What about the messages on your phone? Marina frowned. What messages? The supportive messages he sends. You are stronger than you think. Those kinds of things. Marina stared at him with an indecipherable expression. Raphael, Dr. Leonard doesn't send personal messages to patients. That would be unethical. Now it was Raphael's turn to be confused. But I saw it. On your phone screen, signed with L. Marina picked up her phone and scrolled through the messages. After a few seconds, she started to laugh. Raphael, those messages are from the meditation app I downloaded. Mindful Freedom. The app sends motivational phrases every day. The L signature is from the brand. Raphael felt like the biggest idiot in the world. Weeks of paranoia, investigation, and distrust because of a meditation app. I'm an imbecile, he murmured. No, Marina said, taking his hand. You're a man who's afraid of losing the woman he loves, but who forgot how to show that. Love. They left the coffee shop hand in hand. It was the first time in months they had touched each other out of affection, not social obligation. On the street, Marina stopped and looked into Raphael's eyes. There's something you need to know, she said. What? I still love you. That's why I'm willing to try. Raphael kissed her right there, on the busy Beverly Hills sidewalk. It was an urgent, desperate kiss, full of apologies and promises of change. When they separated, both were crying. The first session is Thursday, Marina said, at 3 in the afternoon. I'll be there. They returned home in separate cars, but for the first time in a long time, Raphael felt they were going to the same place. Dr. Leonard Sterling's office was on the 3rd floor of the building in Beverly Hills. It was a welcoming environment, with neutral tones, comfortable armchairs, and a large window overlooking the busy street. Raphael arrived 10 minutes before the scheduled time, more nervous than he had been since his first meeting with Japanese investors. Marina was already in the waiting room, leafing through an art magazine. She wore a simple aqua green dress and seemed serene. When she saw Raphael, she smiled discreetly. Thank you for coming, she said. I said I would. Dr. Leonard greeted them promptly at 3 o'clock. He was exactly as Raphael had imagined, medium height, grey hair, discreet glasses, a calm and attentive presence. He wore dark jeans and a light blue dress shirt, no tie. He didn't fit the stereotype of a psychologist Raphael had in his head. Raphael, it's a pleasure to meet you. Marina has spoken a lot about you. They settled into armchairs arranged in a triangle. Dr. Leonard sat facing the couple with a notepad on his lap. Before we begin, the psychologist said, I'd like to establish some basic rules. This is a safe space. You can express any feeling, any thought, without fear of judgment. But you also need to be willing to listen to each other, even when what is said is difficult to hear. Do you agree? Raphael and Marina nodded. Marina told me a little about the situation. Raphael, I'd like to hear your perspective on what brought you here. Raphael took a deep breath. He looked at Marina, then at Dr. Leonard. I think I lost my way, he began. I don't know exactly when, but I stopped paying attention to Marina, to our relationship. I focused so much on work that I forgot I had a personal life to take care of. And how do you feel about that? Guilty, confused, afraid of having lost everything due to negligence. Dr. Leonard made some notes. Marina, how do you feel hearing Raphael say that? Marina considered the question. I'm glad he recognizes the problem, but I'm also afraid it's just lip service. He's promised changes before, but he always went back to old patterns. When did that happen? Several times. Over the years. Whenever I complained that he was absent, he would dedicate himself more for a few weeks. Then everything would go back to normal. Raphael felt a pang of discomfort. It was true. He remembered episodes where Marina had complained about his lack of attention, and he had made temporary efforts to compensate, but never structural changes. Raphael, do you agree with Marina's perception? Yes, he admitted. I think I always treated it as a time management issue, not as a fundamental need of the relationship. Explain that better. Raphael searched for the right words. I always thought that if I organized my schedule better, I could fit in time for the marriage, as if it were just another task to manage. And now you see it differently? Now I see that perhaps it should be the other way around. The relationship should be the priority, and work should fit around it. Marina looked at him in surprise. It was the first time she had heard Raphael speak like that. Dr. Leonard addressed her. "Marina, how do you feel hearing this?" "Hopeful, but still wary. It's exactly what I always wanted to hear, but I'm afraid to believe it." "Why?" "Because Raphael is very convincing when he wants to be. He could sell ice to an Eskimo if he needed to. I'm afraid this is just a strategy to keep me married to him." Marina's brutal honesty hit Raphael like a slap. She thought he was manipulating the situation. "Marina," Raphael said, "I understand your distrust, and you have reason not to trust my words, but I really want to change." "How can I be sure of that?" Dr. Leonard intervened. "Marina, what kind of change would you like to see in Raphael? Be specific." Marina thought for a few moments. "I want him to ask me how I'm feeling and truly listen to the answer. I want him to share with me what he's feeling, not just practical work problems. I want him to show interest in my art, not just the financial aspects of exhibitions." She paused. "And I want him to stop treating our relationship like a business project that can be optimized with more efficiency." Dr. Leonard turned to Raphael. "How do you feel hearing these requests?" "Scared," Raphael admitted, "because I don't know if I know how to do that." "Explain." "I was raised to be practical, objective, focused on results. My father was like that, my grandfather was like that. Feelings were always seen as weakness in my family. I didn't learn the emotional language." It was the first time Raphael had spoken about his emotional upbringing. In fact, it was the first time he had consciously thought about it. Dr. Leonard made more notes. "Raphael, do you want to learn this language?" "Yes, because without it, I'll lose Marina. And besides that, is there any personal reason?" The question caught Raphael off guard. He always justified changes by the results they would produce, not by internal experiences. Yes. I think I want to learn to feel things more deeply, not just in relation to Marina, but in relation to life in general." Marina looked at him with an expression Raphael hadn't seen in a long time. There was tenderness there, but also curiosity, as if she were seeing a facet of him she didn't know. "Marina," Dr. Leonard said, "Raphael is showing vulnerability here. How does that affect you?" "It touches me," Marina replied, "because that vulnerability is what has always been missing from our relationship." Dr. Leonard addressed both of them. "I want to propose an exercise. Over the next 2 weeks you will try to communicate differently. Raphael, every day you will ask Marina how she is feeling, but you cannot try to solve what she says. Just listen and validate." Raphael nodded. "Marina, every day you will share with Raphael one thing you are feeling, but without expectation that he will solve or change anything, just to create emotional intimacy. What if it's something negative about him? Especially if it's something negative, but always use 'I feel' instead of 'you do.'" They agreed to the exercise. Dr. Leonard scheduled the next session for the following week. Back at the apartment, Raphael and Marina went to the balcony where she painted. It was the first time in months Raphael had entered that space. "Can I see what you're painting now?" Marina hesitated. "You'll be shocked." "Why?" "Because it's about us. About how I've been feeling." She turned one of the canvases towards him. It was a painting of 2 human figures with their backs to each other, surrounded by a dark mist. The figures were clearly recognizable as a man in a suit and a woman in a dress. They were in the same space but completely isolated. Raphael remained silent for long minutes, studying the work. "Is that how you see us?" "It was, at least until last week." "And now?" Marina picked up a brush and showed a blank canvas next to it. "Now I don't know. That's why I haven't been able to paint anything new yet." Raphael sat in a chair next to the easel. "Will you teach me about your colors?" Marina looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" "I want to understand how you choose colors, how decide where to put them. I want to learn about your process." It was the first time Raphael had shown genuine interest in Marina's artistic technique, not just the commercial value of the works. She picked up a palette with already mixed paints. "See, To get this shade of grey here, I mixed ultramarine blue with burnt sienna and a touch of white. Each colour has a temperature, a personality. Raphael listened with complete attention. Marina continued explaining about composition, perspective, symbolism. She spoke for almost an hour, while Raphael asked specific questions and showed real interest. "You know this. There's the first time I've talked about art like this with you," Marina said when she finished. "It's the first time I've really asked." That night, during dinner, Raphael began the exercise proposed by Dr. Leonard. "How are you feeling today?" Marina hesitated, as if it were a trick question. "Are you really asking?" "I am. I feel hopeful, but vulnerable, like I'm on a razor's edge between the possibility of winning back my marriage or losing it definitively." Raphael felt the immediate urge to reassure her, to promise that everything would be okay, but he remembered Dr. Leonard's advice. "Just listen and validate. It must be scary to be in that position," he said. Marina smiled. "Exactly. Thank you for understanding." It was her turn. "Raphael, how are you feeling?" It was a simple question, but Raphael realized he had never answered it honestly. He always said fine and tired or worried about work. Now he tried to identify what he truly felt. "I'm feeling lost," he admitted, "as if I'd spent years building a version of myself that isn't who I really am." Marina took his hand. "What version is that?" "The version of the successful man who controls everything, who has an answer for everything, who never shows weakness. I think I wore that mask for so long that I forgot who's underneath it." "And who do you think is underneath?" Raphael thought. "Someone who's afraid, who sometimes feels alone even when surrounded by people, who wants to be loved for who he is, not for what he possesses." Marina got up and went to him. She kissed his forehead tenderly. "That person interests me much more than the mask." Over the next 2 weeks, Raphael and Marina religiously maintained the emotional communication exercise. Gradually, they began to rediscover each other. Raphael discovered that Marina had felt invisible in the marriage for years, that she doubted her own talent because he never showed genuine interest in her art, that she sometimes cried in the studio after failed attempts to talk to him about feelings. Marina discovered that Raphael had felt pressured to be perfect since childhood, that he was afraid she would leave him if she discovered his insecurities, that he worked compulsively to prove his worth, but never truly felt valued. They also began to make small changes to their routine. Raphael started coming home at 7 in the evening instead of 8 or 9. Marina stopped locking herself in the studio after dinner. They watched movies together on the sofa, cooked on weekends, and resumed walks on the beach. Their sex life also began to transform. Instead of quick, mechanical encounters, they spent time physically rediscovering each other. Raphael learned to pay attention to Marina's signals, to what gave her pleasure. Marina allowed herself to express her desires, instead of just passively accepting. In the third therapy session, Dr. Leonard noticed visible changes. "You're touching each other more," he observed, "and looking into each other's eyes more often." "We're rediscovering ourselves," Marina said. "How has this process been for you, Raphael?" "Revealing and frightening. I'm realizing how many things I took for granted in our relationship. For example, I thought Marina knew I loved her, even if I never said it. I thought she knew I considered her art important, even if I never asked about her work. I thought I was being a good husband, just by not cheating on her and paying the bills." Dr. Leonard made notes. "And now you see it differently." "Now I see that love isn't just a feeling. It's an everyday action, and I stopped acting with love a long time ago." Marina held his hand. "Raphael has been very different in recent weeks," she told Dr. Leonard. "He's truly present, asking questions, showing interest." "How are you coping with this change?" "At first with distrust. I thought it was temporary, but he's been consistent." Dr. Leonard addressed Raphael. "And for you? How is it sustaining these changes?" "Difficult. It requires conscious effort all the time. When I'm stressed or tired, my natural tendency is to revert to old patterns, but Marina gives me immediate feedback when that happens." "Do you feel pressured by that feedback?" "At first, yes. Now I see it as a favor. It's better for her to tell me when I'm being absent than to keep it to herself. Dr. Leonard proposed a new dynamic. I want you to do a vulnerability exercise. Marina, I want you to tell Raphael about a moment in your life when you felt most alone. Raphael, I want you to tell about a moment when you felt most afraid, Marina began. It was 2 years ago when I didn't get the exhibition at MoCA. I spent months preparing a project, developed a specific concept, invested my own money in materials. When I found out I wasn't selected, I felt like a complete failure as an artist. She paused. I came home crying, wanting to vent, wanting you to comfort me. But you were on an important call with investors. You gestured for me to wait, then completely forgot. I went to the bedroom and cried alone all night. Raphael felt a stab of guilt. I don't even remember that day, he admitted. For you, it was just another workday. For me, it was the day I realized I was married to someone who didn't care about my pain. Raphael held both of Marina's hands. I'm sorry, I should have hung up the phone and taken care of you. Now it's your turn, said Dr. Leonard. Raphael took a deep breath. My biggest fear happened when I was 12. My father lost a lot of money in a poorly executed real estate speculation. Overnight, we went from a big house in Beverly Hills to a small apartment in Culver City. He had never told Marina this story. I remember my father crying hidden in the bathroom, trying to hide it, so as not to seem weak in front of the family. And I remember my mother telling me to be strong and help Daddy. Raphael paused, visibly emotional. Since then, I've been terrified of failing financially. That's why I work as if my life depends on it. That's why I never show weakness, because I learned that a weak man cannot protect those he loves. Marina's eyes were moist. You never told me that. Because I'm ashamed. Ashamed that my father cried. Ashamed of being afraid of becoming like him. Dr. Leonard observed them. How do you feel after sharing for these vulnerabilities? Closer, Marina replied. More real. Scared, Raphael admitted, but also relieved, like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. You just did something you hadn't done in years. Truly get to know each other, Dr. Leonard said. That's emotional intimacy. It's the foundation of lasting relationships. When they left the office that day, Raphael and Marina walked hand in hand through the streets of Beverly Hills. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in orange hues. Thank you for not giving up on us, Raphael said. Thank you for agreeing to change, Marina replied. They stopped on the Santa Monica beach sand and sat side by side watching the waves. You know what impresses me most about this process, Marina said. What? It's that I'm falling in love with you again. But this time, with the person you really are, not the image you projected. Raphael kissed her right there on the sand with the sound of the sea in the background and the first signs that they were truly finding their way back to each other. For 6 weeks, Raphael and Marina lived in a kind of reconciliation honeymoon. Sessions with Dr. Leonard continued weekly, but now felt more like conversations with a wise friend than emergency therapy. They had developed a routine of emotional intimacy that included morning walks on the beach, dinners without television or cell phones, and nightly conversations where they shared not only the day's events but the feelings those events evoked. Raphael reduced his workload from 12 to 8 hours a day. He delegated more responsibilities to his partners and discovered that the world didn't fall apart when he didn't personally control every detail of the business. In fact, his employees seemed more motivated with greater autonomy and financial results remained stable. Marina returned to painting with vibrant colors. The somber canvases of recent months were replaced by works that explored ocean blues, hopeful greens, and solar golds. She had started a series called Renaissance, depicting human figures emerging from cocoons, butterflies leaving chrysalises, and flowers blooming in arid lands. One Thursday afternoon, Raphael was in a meeting room at the office when his secretary entered with a strange expression on her face. Mr. Miller, there's a woman at reception who insists on speaking with you. She says it's urgent and personal. Who is it? She identified herself as Christine Maxwell. The name hit Raphael like lightning. Christine Maxwell, the architect with whom he had had an affair 3 years ago. A relationship that lasted 6 months and almost destroyed his marriage, though Marina never found out. "Tell her I'm in a meeting," Raphael replied automatically. "I already did, sir." She replied that she will wait as long as necessary. Raphael felt his stomach clench. Why was Christine there after so long? What did she want? And why now, when he and Marina were finally rebuilding their relationship? "Send her up," he said, against all his instincts. Christine Maxwell entered the room as if she owned the place. Tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in a black suit and high heels that clicked on the marble floor. At 35, she was as exuberant as Raphael remembered, but there was something different in her eyes, a determination that hadn't existed before. "Hello, Raphael." "Christine, what do you want here?" She sat in the armchair opposite his desk without being invited. "I heard you and Marina were having problems." "Who told you that?" "Los Angeles is a small city when it comes to high society. There are rumors that she was in therapy, that you barely spoke." Raphael felt a wave of anger, his private life being discussed in social circles as if it were entertainment. "Our problems have been resolved," he said coldly. "Have they really?" Christine crossed her legs and studied him with a provocative smile. "Because according to my sources, she almost filed for divorce." "Your sources are outdated." "Raphael, you don't have to pretend with me. We had something special. I know you haven't completely forgotten me." Christine's arrogance left Raphael perplexed. They had ended clearly and definitively. He had even made it explicit that he chose his marriage and no longer wanted contact with her. "Christine, I don't know what you came here for, but I came for you," she interrupted him. "I know you're free now, or at least semi-free, and I thought maybe it was the right time to resume what we had." Raphael stood up from his chair. "Are you crazy? I'm a married man, happily married." "Oh, please. Do you think I don't know you're just keeping up appearances? What kind of satisfied man seeks a mistress?" The question was like a slap. Raphael felt old guilt resurfacing, mixed with the anger of the present moment. "That's over, Christine. It was a mistake that won't be repeated." "Was it really a mistake?" She approached the desk. "Because I remember you telling me you'd never felt as alive as you did with me." Raphael had indeed said that. During the affair, he felt intoxicated by the novelty, by the passion without responsibilities, by the feeling of being desired without needing to be a provider or protector. It was a freedom he hadn't experienced since his youth. "They were lies I told to justify something wrong." Were they? Or were they truths you were afraid to admit? Christine walked around the desk and stood close to him. She wore a perfume Raphael recognized immediately, the same one she wore during the period they met in downtown hotel apartments. "Raphael, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be with someone who truly desires you, not with someone who treats you like a stranger in your own home. Marina doesn't. Marina is a spoiled artist who never understood your needs. I do." Christine's cruel description of Marina awakened something fierce in Raphael. "Shut up," he said with a coldness that surprised them both. "Don't talk about my wife like that." Christine recoiled, realizing she had crossed a line. "Raphael, I didn't come here to offend anyone. I came because I still feel something for you. And I thought maybe what? That I would leave a woman who truly loves me for someone who appears out of nowhere after 3 years. I love you too. No, you love the idea of having me. You love the challenge of taking a married man from his wife. But that's not love, Christine. That's ego." She tried one last card. "What if I tell Marina about us, about the 6 months we spent together while she thought you were working late?" The explicit threat made Raphael see red. For a moment, he considered calling security and having Christine escorted out of the building, but something stopped him. A voice that sounded suspiciously like Dr. Leonard's. "Secrets are cancer in relationships. You know what, Christine? Do it." She blinked, confused. "What?" "Tell her. Because I'm going to tell her anyway." It was true. At that exact moment, Raphael realized he couldn't continue building a new marriage on the rotten foundation of an old lie. If he wanted radical transparency with Marina, he needed to start by confessing the worst thing he had done. "You're bluffing. I'm not. And you know why? Because I learned that true love only works with complete truth, something you were never able to understand. Raphael picked up the phone and called security. Please escort this woman out and do not allow her back into the building. Christine looked at him with a mixture of shock and anger. You'll regret this, Raphael. That woman doesn't deserve you. You're right, Raphael said. She doesn't deserve me, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve her. When Christine left escorted, Raphael was left alone in the room, trembling. He knew a difficult conversation lay ahead, but for the first time, he was ready for it. He arrived home at 6 in the evening, 2 hours earlier than usual. Marina was in the kitchen preparing dinner, an activity they had resumed doing together in recent weeks. Hi, love. You're early today. Raphael, are you okay? You look pale. Raphael watched her for a few seconds. Marina wore an apron over a light blue dress, was barefoot, with her hair tied in a messy bun. Some strands had escaped and framed her face. She was beautiful in a natural, domestic, real way. Marina, I need to talk to you about something. The serious tone of his voice immediately alerted her. What happened? Let's sit in the living room. They settled on the sofa where they had been watching movies together in recent weeks. Raphael took Marina's hands and took a deep breath. 3 years ago, I had an affair. The words came out simple, direct, without circumlocution. Marina remained motionless for a few seconds, processing the information. An affair, she repeated, as if testing the sound of the word. With an architect named Christine Maxwell. It lasted 6 months. Marina withdrew her hands from his. Why? Because I was being a coward, running away from our marriage problems instead of facing them. Why are you telling me this now? Raphael told her about Christine's visit, about the blackmail threat, about his decision to hide nothing anymore. Are you only confessing because she forced you? The question was like a precise stab. No. I'm confessing because I realized I can't build a new marriage on old lies. Marina got up and walked to the window. She stood there, her back to him, watching the sea. Where? She asked. What? Where did you meet? Raphael hesitated. Marina turned to face him. Radical transparency, remember? That's what you said you wanted. In downtown hotels, always when I said I had late meetings. The meetings with the Japanese investors, among others. Marina closed her eyes. How many times did I call you on those nights and you told me you were working? Marina. How many times? Many. She sat down again but kept her distance from him. Why her? What did she have that I don't? It wasn't about that, Marina. It wasn't about you having something less. It was about me running away. Running away from what? From real intimacy. From real emotional commitment. With her, I could pretend to be the single man I was at 20. Without responsibilities, without the need to grow up. Marina absorbed the explanation. And when did you decide to end it? When I realized I was becoming someone I despised, and when I understood that she was starting to demand exclusivity. She wanted you to leave me. Yes, and it was at that moment that I knew I would never do that. That despite all the problems, I loved you and wanted to stay married to you. Marina was silent for long minutes. Raphael respected her space, without trying to fill the void with justifications or apologies. Did you use protection? She finally asked. Always. Did she know you were married? She did. And she still continued? She said it wasn't her problem to take care of my marriage. Marina shook her head in disgust. How could I have been so naive? You weren't naive. You trusted your husband, as you should. I should have realized. No, Marina. It's not your fault, not one bit. I lied, I cheated, I chose to hurt you. The responsibility is entirely mine. Marina studied him for a few moments. Why do you think you did that? Raphael thought before answering. It was a question he had asked himself many times in the last 3 years. Because I didn't know how to deal with the distance that had grown between us. Instead of talking to you, instead of seeking help, I fled into a fantasy that didn't require emotional maturity. And now? How can I trust that this won't happen again? Because now I know what I lose if it happens. Before, I took our marriage for granted. I thought you would always be here no matter how I treated you. Now I know that love is a daily choice, and that if I don't choose you every day, I can lose you forever. Marina got up again and went to the kitchen. Raphael followed her and found her leaning against the counter, crying silently. Marina. No, she said, raising her hand to stop him from approaching. I need to process this alone now. What do you want me to do? I want you to leave home tonight, go to a hotel. I need space to think. Raphael felt the world crumble, but he knew he had no right to argue. And then? Then I'll call you. He packed a small bag and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned to Marina. I love you, and I will wait as long as it takes to earn your forgiveness. I know you love me, she replied, but now I need to find out if that's enough. Raphael spent 3 days at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, on the same block where he had met Marina 7 years earlier. They were the longest 3 days of his life. He couldn't work, couldn't eat properly, couldn't sleep. He stayed in the room replaying every moment of the last 2 months, wondering if they had been real or just an illusion. On the morning of the 4th day, Marina called. Can we talk? Of course. Do you want me to come home? No. Come to Dr. Leonard's office at 3 o'clock. Raphael arrived at the office 20 minutes early. Marina was already in the waiting room, with a serene but determined expression. They greeted each other formally, without touching. Dr. Leonard received them, and immediately noticed the tension. What happened? Marina told him about Raphael's confession. Dr. Leonard listened without interrupting, making occasional notes. How are you both feeling now? Betrayed, Marina said. Confused, because at the same time that I'm furious about the lie, I recognize that he was honest with me when he didn't have to be. And you, Raphael. Devastated, afraid of having lost everything, but also relieved not to have any more secrets. Dr. Leonard addressed Marina. What would you like to happen from now on? Marina had thought a lot about this in recent days. I want us to stay married, but with new rules. Raphael felt an explosion of relief. What rules? Total transparency. Complete access to cell phones, emails, calendar. Anything I ask about where you are or who you're with, you answer immediately, without questioning. Raphael nodded immediately. Second, if any anything appears, you tell me immediately. Don't deal with the situation alone. Accepted. Third, if you ever feel like having an affair, talk to me first. Even if it's difficult, even if it hurts. No making decisions alone that affect our marriage, Dr. Leonard intervened. Marina, how will you deal with the issue of trust? These rules can help at first, but they can't be eternal. I know, but I need a period to rebuild security. Raphael broke something that will take time to heal. And if during that period you discover you can't forgive? Marina looked at Raphael. Then we divorce as mature people who tried but couldn't, but we will try. Raphael held her hand. Thank you for giving me another chance. Don't thank me yet. It's going to be a lot of work, for both of us. Dr. Leonard observed them. You have just established a new marital contract based on transparency and accountability. That is very courageous, but also very challenging. Doctor, Raphael said, I broke her trust. It's fair that I have to win it back. And you, Marina, are you prepared for the emotional work that will be necessary to genuinely forgive? I don't know if I'm prepared, but I'm willing. When they left the office that afternoon, Raphael and Marina walked side by side on the Beverly Hills sidewalk. They weren't holding hands, but there was no hostility between them either. Can I come home today? Raphael asked. You can, but you'll sleep in the guest room for now. For how long? Until I feel safe sharing the bed with you again. It was fair. Raphael knew there was a lot of work ahead, but for the first time in days, he had hope that they would overcome this crisis too. The following 6 months were a slow and deliberate reconstruction. Raphael slept in the guest room for 10 weeks, until one night Marina knocked on the door and said, I think I'm ready to share the bed again. but I'm not ready for physical intimacy yet." Raphael completely respected her pace. They began sleeping side by side again, but maintaining distance. Gradually, that distance lessened. First, they woke up holding hands after a night when Raphael comforted Marina during a nightmare. Then, Marina snuggled into his chest on a cold July morning. Small gestures that signaled the gradual return of trust. The total transparency Marina had demanded proved transformative for both of them. Raphael shared his real-time location, showed all the messages he received, and reported every work meeting. At first, he felt monitored, but he soon realized that complete openness freed him from the anxiety of hiding anything. Marina, in turn, also adopted the same transparency. She showed messages from fellow artists, reported conversations with gallerists, and shared her creative insecurities. They became a couple without secrets, an experience neither of them had ever had before. Sessions with Dr. Leonard continued bi-weekly. The psychologist helped them navigate difficult moments when Marina was overcome by sudden waves of anger or when Raphael felt excessively guilty. Gradually, they learned that healing was not linear. There were good days and bad days, but the overall trajectory was one of growth. "Trust is not something that is rebuilt all at once," Dr. Leonard explained in a session. "It's like a muscle that has been injured. It needs gradual and consistent exercise to function normally again." Their exercise was radical honesty in everyday situations. When Raphael felt attracted to a woman on the street, he told Marina. When Marina felt insecure about something he did, she verbalized it immediately instead of keeping it to herself. It was uncomfortable at first, but it created an emotional intimacy they had never experienced. 3 months after the confession, Raphael made an important decision. He came home one Thursday with a proposal. "Marina, I want to renew our vows." She was painting in the studio and stopped with the brush in the air. "Why?" "Because when we got married 7 years ago, we were different people. I was a man who thought love just meant not cheating and paying the bills. You were a woman who accepted crumbs of attention, thinking that was all you deserved." Raphael approached the easel. "Now we are different people. I learned that love is a daily choice, constant work, conscious vulnerability. You learned that you deserve to be a priority, not just a convenient responsibility." Marina put the brush aside and looked at him. "And why do you think that requires a ceremony?" "Because I want to make specific promises to the person you are today, not to the person you were 7 years ago. And I want to hear your vows to the man I've become, not to the man I was." The idea intrigued Marina. They had changed so much in recent months that they truly seemed like different people from those who had married in the small ceremony in Laguna Beach. What would it be like? A small ceremony, just the two of us, and a few important people. On the beach, where we met, with vows we write specifically for who we are now. Marina thought for a few minutes. "I want one condition." "What?" "I want it to be exactly 1 year after your confession. To mark that, we managed to survive the worst and chose to continue together consciously." Raphael smiled. "Perfect." The next few months were spent preparing not only for the ceremony, but for the life they wanted to build together. Raphael sold one of his companies and began working only 6 hours a day, dedicating more time to Marina and to himself. He started practicing yoga, reading literature, and learning about art. He discovered passions he had buried under years of obsessive focus on work. Marina got her solo exhibition in one of Los Angeles' most prestigious cultural spaces. The show, titled Metamorphosis, brought together works from the last 2 years, from the somber paintings of the crisis period to the colorful works of reconciliation. Critics praised the evident emotional evolution on the canvases and the artistic journey of a woman who found her voice. At the exhibition opening, Raphael stood beside Marina, genuinely proud. He talked to critics about her techniques, asked intelligent questions about composition, and showed real interest in his wife's work. Marina watched him, surprised and satisfied. It was the first time he had truly engaged with her art. "He really has changed," commented Clara, an artist friend of Marina's. "It seems he finally understood that he married an artist, not a decorator." The vow renewal ceremony took place on a golden December afternoon on Santa Monica Beach, the same place where they had met at the vernissage 7 years earlier. Only 12 people were present, both sets of parents, a few close friends, Dr. Leonard and his wife. Marina wore a simple white dress, made of fluid fabric that danced in the sea breeze. Raphael wore a light linen suit, no tie. They stood on the sand facing the ocean as the sun began to set. Raphael spoke first. "Marina, 7 years ago, I promised to love you in joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health, in richness and in poverty. They were beautiful promises but empty because I didn't understand what they meant." He looked into her eyes. "Today I promise different and specific things. I promise to ask you how you are feeling and truly listen to the answer. I promise to share my fears and insecurities with you, not just my successes. I promise to value your art not for what it's worth but for what it means to you." Raphael paused, visibly emotional. "I promise never again to take our love for granted. I promise to choose you every day consciously, even when it's difficult. And I promise that if I ever fail to keep these promises, I will seek help instead of running away." Marina wiped away tears before beginning her vows. "Raphael, 7 years ago I promised to be your faithful and dedicated wife. But in truth, I promised to be invisible, convenient, a shadow that wouldn't disrupt your important life." She held his hands. "Today I promise different things. I promise to demand the place I deserve in your life and in our life. I promise to express my needs instead of waiting for you to guess them. I promise not to accept crumbs of love, pretending it's a feast." Marina smiled through her tears. "I promise to forgive your mistakes, but not forget your lessons. I promise to grow by your side instead of just existing. And I promise that if I ever fail to keep these promises, I will tell the truth instead of pretending everything is okay." Dr. Leonard, who informally officiated the ceremony, declared them remarried in conscious love. They kissed as the sun set behind them, painting the sky in orange and pink hues. The party after the ceremony was small but intense. It took place at the same hotel where they had had their first date. Raphael's parents, initially skeptical about this vow renewal nonsense, were moved to realize their son's genuine transformation. Marina's mother, who had spent years worried about her daughter's apparent unhappiness, finally saw her truly radiant. "How you look like a couple of sweethearts," Marina's father commented during the toast. "That's exactly how we feel," Marina replied, "as if we're just starting now, but with the wisdom of having already weathered storms." 6 months after the vow renewal, Marina discovered she was pregnant. The news came on a Saturday morning when she woke up feeling nauseous for the 3rd time that week. The home test confirmed what both suspected but dared not verbalize. "Are we ready for this?" Marina asked, looking at the 2 lines on the test. "I don't know if anyone is ever truly ready." Raphael replied, "But we are prepared. We're a team now, for real." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Raphael accompanied Marina to all medical appointments, set up the baby's room, and participated in childbirth preparation classes. It was a paternal and caring side of him that Marina was discovering for the first time. "You're going to be an incredible father," she said one afternoon as they felt the baby kick. "How do you know?" "Because you learned to pay attention, and attention is the basis of everything that matters in love." During the last months of pregnancy, Raphael further reduced his workload. He delegated the operational management of the company to a trusted partner and retained only the main strategic decisions. He wanted to be completely present for the birth of their child and for the first few months of its life. "Won't you miss the adrenaline of business?" Marina asked. "The adrenaline is different now. It's seeing you pregnant with our child, imagining what it will be like to teach her about the world, thinking about all the moments we'll live together as a family." Their daughter was born on a sunny September morning. Sophia Helen Miller came into the world. After an 8-hour labor, with Raphael holding Marina's hand and whispering words of encouragement throughout the process. When the doctor placed Sophia in Marina's arms, Raphael cried as he had never cried in his adult life. Not from sadness or frustration, but from a joy so pure and overwhelming that it spilled from his eyes. She's perfect, Marina murmured, observing her daughter's dark eyes, which gazed at her with intense curiosity. You two are perfect, Raphael said, kissing Marina's forehead and then gently touching Sophia's face. The first few months with Sophia were intense, but revealing. Raphael proved to be a present and dedicated father, waking up for night feedings, changing diapers, carrying their daughter for hours when she was restless. Marina, in turn, discovered a maternal strength she didn't know she possessed, and a capacity for multitasking that surprised her. How did we do it before she existed? Marina asked one night, watching Sophia sleep in the crib beside their bed. I don't even remember, Raphael replied. It feels like she's always been here. Dr. Leonard visited them when Sophia was 2 months old. He had become a family friend, not just the psychologist who had saved their marriage. How are you coping with the changes? He asked. We discovered that we are stronger as a couple than we imagined, Marina replied. Sophia is uniting us even more. And you, Raphael, how is fatherhood? It's scary and wonderful at the same time. I look at her and feel a gigantic responsibility, but also a motivation I've never felt before. I want to be the man she deserves to have as a father. What kind of man is that? Raphael thought before answering. A man who shows love through presence, not just provision. A man who shows her how a woman should be treated by the way I treat Marina. A man who admits mistakes and apologizes when necessary. Dr. Leonard smiled. You've come a long way since that first session. Doctor, Marina said, can I make a confession? In that first session, I was 80% sure we were going to separate. And now? Now I'm 100% sure we're going to be together forever. Not because we won't have more problems, but because we've learned how to deal with them together. Raphael agreed. We learned that marriage is not a permanent state that is achieved. It's a daily work that we choose to do because it's worth it. When Sophia turned 6 months old, Marina resumed painting. She set up a smaller studio inside her daughter's room, where she could work while the girl played or slept. Her new works explored themes of motherhood, family, and mature love. A gallery in San Francisco invited her for a group exhibition on women artists and motherhood. Will you accept? Raphael asked. I want to accept, but I'm afraid to leave Sophia. We'll go together. I insist on experiencing San Francisco through your artist's eyes. It was the kind of support Marina had always dreamed of having. Raphael not only agreed with her career but actively participated, offering logistical and emotional support. The trip to San Francisco was a success. Sophia behaved perfectly during the flight, the exhibition was well received by critics, and Raphael proved to be an excellent travel companion. They took the opportunity for a romantic weekend, with Sophia being cared for by her maternal grandparents in Los Angeles. You know what impresses me most about our story? Marina said as they dined at a charming restaurant in the Mission District. What? It wasn't love at first sight that saved us, it was work. Conscious, consistent daily work. Raphael held her hand across the table. And do you think that's better or worse than love at first sight? Better. Much better. Because what we built was chosen, not just felt, and choices can be renewed every day. On their way back to Los Angeles, they stopped at Laguna Beach, where they had originally married. Sophia played in the sand while they watched the sea. Remember when you told me you wanted to exhibit at the MoCA? Raphael asked. I remember. Still want to? Of course, Raphael smiled. I have a contact there, a collector who funds exhibitions. Want me to introduce your work? Marina looked at him in surprise. You would do that? Marina, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the years when I didn't adequately support your dreams. You don't need to make up for anything. You are already the husband I always wanted to have. Then I'll be the husband you deserve to continue having. They kissed right there, on the sand, with Sophia giggling beside them as if approving the moment. 2 years later, Marina indeed had her solo exhibition at the MoCA. The show was called Maturation and brought together works from different phases of her career. The catalogue included a text where she wrote about art as a mirror of personal evolution and life as infinite inspiration for creation. At the exhibition opening, Raphael circulated through the museum carrying Sophia, now a talkative and curious child, explaining to her about the colors and shapes her mommy had created. "Daddy, why does mommy paint faceless people?" Sophia asked about a work from the somber period. "Because sometimes when we're sad, we feel like we've lost our identity. But see these other paintings here?" Raphael pointed to the more recent works. "These have very defined faces. Do you know why?" "No. Because when we find true love, we discover who we really are." Marina approached them. "Are you giving our daughter an art lesson?" "He's giving her a life lesson," Raphael corrected. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Raphael and Marina sat on the balcony of the new apartment they had bought, smaller than the previous one, but with a beach view and a perfect studio for Marina. "3 years ago, I was ready to ask for a divorce," Marina said. 3 years ago, I was a man who thought love was just a commodity to be managed. And now? Now I know that love is the only thing truly worth having in life, and that it's worth any work necessary to maintain it." Marina snuggled into his chest. "You know what's the most incredible part of our whole story?" "What?" "It's that we didn't end up the same as when we started. We ended up better, more whole, more true." Raphael kissed the top of her head. "And with a beautiful daughter who will grow up seeing what a truly healthy relationship is like. She'll never accept less than she deserves. Never. Because she'll have examples of what's possible when two people decide to truly get to know each other and love consciously." In the next room, Sophia slept peacefully, surrounded by a love that had been tested by time, by crises, by mistakes, and by the courage to start anew. A love that was not born ready, but was built brick by brick, day after day, choice after choice. And as the ocean whispered outside the window, Raphael and Marina remained there embraced, knowing that they had found not only each other, but their best selves through each other. Knowing that true love is not one that never faces storms, but one that learns to dance in the rain and finds the sun on the other side.